I can remember from my earliest days crying on the bus on the way home just because I didn't have friends. I didn't have any guys around me that would just, make me feel comfortable for who I was as a young boy and as somebody who was, looking forward to becoming a man and becoming who I was supposed to be and finding my place in the story. And so I continued on up through high school. I changed schools in my sophomore year, and I got into a place where I just started partying more and just seeking out different ways to acceptance. But it was just the peers at school that would continue to reject me. And through all of this, all the way from I'm just trying to think back to middle school years, I started having these attractions for men that were interesting. They were very new to me. That I didn't know what they were. I was looking at them on a different level than I knew other boys were looking at them. And I think a lot of that has to do with just rejection and wanting to be accepted and just like craving after what I thought I should have. They drew me in with just things that I was lacking in my own life. And I was attracted to those traits that just brought me deeper into this hole that was being formed below me, which I didn't know till later, but it was something dug by society where, we all do have a need to be accepted. We all have a need to be liked and, on the popular side of things. That's just part of how society is. And it's about what the flesh wants. And so as these attractions started, I just tried moving in that direction and I got kicked back. I moved in another direction and I got kicked back. I would try doing something that they were good at and then I was rejected. I would try going to parties where they were involved. I got rejected. I tried becoming good at sports. I got rejected. And so it was just in the actions of those that just continued to push me back each time. And I started to kind of whittle down on the stick of life. I was starting to whittle down to the very nubbins, and there was only a few things that I had left. And then that's actually when I first sexualized it in my sophomore year of high school. I found somebody just as much craving as I was, in the sense of wanting to be accepted and wanting that connection with somebody. And so we came together in that. And so I was able to finally feel that I was accepted. I finally felt that I was connecting with someone. I felt like I mattered. I felt like I cared. Felt like somebody cared for me. I had that person in my life. It was very instantaneous, but it was very short-lived. And so that just kind of continued on. And I kept it hidden for a long time. Just a lot of my feelings and my emotions and my attractions and just the confusion that comes with all of that. Because when other boys were going after girls, saying, okay, well, I know everything about guys. Now what's this other new creature? What's this something else that used to have cooties? Maybe it doesn't. And just kind of seeking after that, I was still working at trying to get accepted and affirmed by those around me of the same sex. As far as the rejections go, I think that did, spawn from my adoption. Because anybody who's had a baby or anything in the family knows that the very first moment from when the child is born into this world, that connection with the mother is most vital. That is one of the most important things, having that connection and that connect with them. Well, I had a huge disconnect. I had an instant mother wound that I think I carried on through life. I always portrayed that rejection onto the rest of society, that, well, if she rejected me, if she didn't want me, even though I was adopted by some amazing people. I love my mom and dad with all of my heart, but I kind of projected, I think, that rejection on them, on my friends, my family. So it was partially my fault because I already had this predetermined judgment against them, saying, well, they're going to reject me. Well, after first sexualizing it in my sophomore year, that's when it really started developing deep within me. It's like I found something that worked, and so I decided to grab a hold of it with both hands. I just grasped it in, and I would not let it go. And I was actually working in church at the time. I was working with the K through 5th grade, and I mean, I never did anything bad, but it was just always back there. And it actually, when the church found out about my struggle, just after I had talked to a pastor, they asked me to discontinue working with the youth, and they actually asked me, because of those relationships, to actually break away from the church for a time, and which again to me sounded like rejection. It felt like being rejected and pushed away, which just angered me more, brought me to a darker place in my life. I began to rebel against my parents deeply, disobeying them in every way, and just blatantly drinking in front of them, smoking in front of them, and just acting as though what they had taught me did not matter, and what they had raised me up to be is not ever going to happen. The pastor of the church was along the lines of just somebody who did love me and care for me, and I can see now that what it was is he was asking me to leave the church because I wasn't willing to listen to him and what God wanted, because he tried to counsel me and just give me words of encouragement, words of affirmation, and meet me in my place of need. But when he saw I wasn't going to listen, and I was going in the way of the world, going with what, my flesh wanted, he just said, I need to protect the church, and I need to protect myself, and I need to protect everyone around here before we can try and help you, because you're not going to receive it. I think I was just angry because I finally found an outlet, but I found it so late in life. And there are so many things I regretted from previous relationships in my life, with friends in school, angry at them for rejecting me, angry at myself for letting them reject me, angry at myself for allowing myself to come into the place where I was going, because I knew deep within my heart, biblically, and just through the voice of God, knowing it wasn't right, but rejecting that brought in just even more anger. I did, to a point, feel, I guess, rejected by God, because I felt like I had gone to him to heal me and say, Lord, I don't want this anymore. But there was nothing. I opened my eyes, and I would still see men everywhere that just attracted me and just brought me deep into that. And so in my eyes, I was being rejected, and God was saying either one of two things: either not right now, I don't care about you. And so I just took that as more deep rejection. I still didn't tell my parents for a while. I kept it from them until I was probably about 19, and I finally met up with them, and I just said, hey, this is the way it is. This is, where I'm at. I'm attracted to men. I'm in a homosexual relationship. This is the way it's going to be. I found my acceptance. I found my way in life. I need you to accept me where I am. And they wouldn't. They accepted me as for who they knew I was, but they didn't accept my way of life and the way that I was going. And so they as well pushed back from me and said, we need to distance ourselves from you to protect us, to protect our marriage, to be able to be there for you when you are ready for us to be here. I guess it's because I was being a very destructive person. I was being a very destructive person in my actions, my attitude. I was kind of like a virus within the immediate family, because it was kind of the elephant in the room, I guess you could say, that they always kind of knew this stuff was going on. And so when I was disrespecting them, I was going against their instruction, going against what they had raised me to be. They said, we can see where you're going. Kind of like what the pastor did, said, we need to take a step back. We've tried what we can. We need to take a step back and just let you run your course, make your own decisions, because you are an adult. You can do this. But the decisions that you're making, we cannot support and condone. So we love you with all of our hearts. But in that love, we need to practice tough love and just step back for a bit. If they would have accepted me, I never would have I never would have left that lifestyle. I never would have, because it would have been just pushed deeper and deeper into my heart that it was right, that it was okay, it was acceptable. What they did was right because I was an adult and I was making my own choices. I was making my own decisions, and they weren't the right ones. I wasn't using any wisdom in it, and I wasn't using the guidance that had been given to me by my parents, by my pastors, by people who really truly loved me and cared for me. But because of all that pent-up anger and that frustration, in that I just rebelled, and I was completely closed off in every way to what any of them had to say at the time. At the time of about 19 or 20, I really walked hard into the lifestyle of homosexuality. I continued to seek that acceptance, affirmation, and that wantedness, being wanted and accepted and cared for by others. I felt that there was a community there that would love me and accept me for where I was and what I was dealing with. And I became practically a sexual addict in the sense that the experience was so short-lived, and as soon as, any experience with another man was done, I felt empty. I felt betrayed. I felt disgusting. I felt used. I felt as though I had sold myself for just nothing, and my soul had just been infected with a even worse disease. And so I continued to avoid those gaps and just continue to bring people in. I would go on internet sites and, find people that were looking for the same thing and just have anonymous connections with them continuously, which is very dangerous in and of itself, but I didn't care. I had such a reckless abandon for, going after this, what I felt was quote unquote love, I guess. And that's what really brought me to the bottom. That's what brought me down to where I think I needed to be to really hear God's voice and hear Him seeking me out, and Him reassuring me that, no, this is not going to be an instantaneous process. But if you give me this process, we'll make it just one day at a time. And I will love you. I will be your friend. I will accept you for who you truly are. I will help teach you who you truly are. I will help give you an identity that you lost long ago. I will give it back with more and more fruit. So in that time of, I guess, vulnerability, where I was finally sick and tired of living in that lifestyle, I actually sat down with my aunt and I just voiced out to her, as my mom's sister. And I said, enough is enough. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm completely stuck. I am sick of this. There's got to be another way. There's got to be a permanent answer for my questions. There's got to be a permanent fulfillment for my needs and my cravings. I need something. I need some help. And the reason I went to her was because she had told me about a gentleman that lives down by Seattle who had walked out of the gay lifestyle. And she said, I know how to get a hold of him. I've known him for many years. And so I did it. My dad threw me in the truck and brought me down to Seattle, and we went down there and I met up with him. And I still remember I think I went through an entire pack of cigarettes walking around a parking lot with this guy, and we just talked and shared stories. We shared tears. We shared just love. It was just one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. And I remember at one point in time, he actually had to pull the cigarette away from my mouth, and he said, Kevin, no matter what, whether you change or not, I will love you, I will be your brother, and I will stand with you in any and all things that are by the glory of God. And so when I knew that I had God on my side, and I knew my parents would support me because they had always loved me. And when I knew that this guy was going to walk through and be like a mentor to me and share his life experiences with me and share his failures and his strengths and his accomplishments with me, and speak into my life and be that encouragement and be somebody that I could turn to. I felt as though I had enough encouragement to do so. And I felt, okay, I can do this. And I'm like, God, I'm giving you a chance. I'm giving you one chance. Because I gave you a chance a lot of years ago and you didn't do anything, but I'm giving you this one chance and we'll do it your way. Because my way was instantaneous. I wanted it taken care of instantly. I wanted it gone. But I could tell that God wanted to take me in a process, take me in an adventure, and just start over a whole new story, a whole new chapter to the book. And so I took a couple of weeks and continued just to really give it to God. And this gentleman decided to get in touch with a program called Living Waters through Desert Stream Ministries. They had a Living Waters that was being held down by Seattle. So he actually ended up getting me in touch with the leader of that group. I sat down with him. Again, same story as my mentor. And so he just said that he would walk alongside of me. He would be there for me and support me in all of this. And so I'm finding in this whole process, I'm finding a whole new community of acceptance. I'm finding a community where I'm finding some of the same things I did in the gay lifestyle, in that gay community, but better. I'm finding it where it's lasting and it's life-giving and it's something that's supporting me and not taking things from me. It's feeding me what I need and what is going to last me for life. Within the program, some of the healing moments that I had were, first off, acknowledging what I was doing was a sin. It was biblical that it was a sin, but also acknowledging that God had the power, He has the power to do this. And being able to acknowledge that, ask for forgiveness and have times of confession, and being able to really look at the situation for what it is and what God has brought me into. I was able to recognize more of my connection, or lack thereof, actually my disconnect with my biological mom, and be able to recognize the damage that did do that wasn't my fault. That's something that I didn't deserve. But God ordained, God blessed, and he poured into that spot, in that spot of emptiness. And He was able to reconnect what she had broken. And I was able to forgive my parents for the rejection that I thought they had towards me, and be able to recognize the acceptance that they had towards me and the love that they showed for me. I was able to see what was actually in front of me instead of being blinded by what I thought I saw. Another healing moment in the group was being able to sit down in small groups with other, actually they're all young guys with just about my age, a little younger. Actually, I think I was the oldest one in the group, and I was about 24 at the time. But I was able to speak out my struggles with them and not be judged. I wasn't feeling as though I was being attacked for my struggles. I wasn't being attacked for my stance on what I believed. I was being accepted in that, and I was being affirmed in that. And I felt like I was being, I was gaining maturity, I was gaining wisdom, I was gaining experience from others' lives, and I was gaining this masculinity that I never had before. I felt like I finally had an identity as a man. I could finally see where my place stood in the story. In this story of life, I figured it out, that my story, or my part in the story, is a child of God. And actually being, co-heirs with Jesus, receiving His inheritance, receiving my inheritance that God has, and being able to walk out in that identity, walk out in that freedom, walk out in what He had for me and His will. In the group, they did really redefine for me what masculinity meant. That it's not just being macho, it's not being muscular, it's not being accepted. It's somebody of integrity. It is somebody walking out in wisdom. It's somebody admitting their weakness but striving for strength. It is somebody who is willing to stand up for what they believe and give of their own life that others may grow out of that. I ended up going to their leadership training in Kansas City, and again continued to receive more healing there, but also got raised up as a leader, being able to lead out of my brokenness. Got to lead out of where I was, got to help other people where they are. And then after that, I got accepted into an internship program where I actually get to work directly with Dean and Andy and be able to receive from them even more healing and more insight and more wisdom and more guidance to continue to help make me a better person, so that way I can be a better person for others. What God has done in my life for healing the homosexual aspect of my life is bringing me to a place of brokenness, bringing me to a place of surrender to Him, being able to give of all my life, because it wasn't just like saying, oh, Jesus, I love you and I accept you as my personal Lord and Savior. Yeah, that's a good thing to do, and that's what it takes to have that relationship with Him. That's the first step. But really taking me through that process and dealing with my heart and just bringing up things of the past, healing up wounds against me, healing up wounds that I've inflicted on others, being able to instill in me what it means to be a man and to walk in that integrity and to be able to take His word for what it says. It's like in 1 Corinthians, it says, when it's talking about those who will not inherit the kingdom of God, those who are slanderers, drunkards, prostitutes, male prostitutes, those who practice homosexuality. At the end of that, I wanted to stop when after they started listing all the different people that would not inherit the kingdom of God. But the Lord kind of nudged me and He said, keep reading. And it said, but some of those of you were once like that, but you were cleansed and you were made holy by calling on the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. And that's when I knew that I was able to confront the situation and be able to defeat it. And I think it has to do with mercy and forgiveness and compassion that He has and His heart for His children. I don't know where I'd be if I didn't pursue the Lord and pursue I initially actually did not seek to leave homosexuality. I just wanted answers. I wanted to be able to seek His heart, and in that's where I got the urge to leave the homosexual lifestyle. And so it was actually just the overwhelming part of His love and His acceptance and who He was that drove me to say, okay, part of who I am in Him does not include this prior life. It includes living in love with Him and nothing above it. And I'm very happy that I made that choice.